Welcome everyone to Introduction to Financial Wellness. We're so glad to have you here today for Parent Empowerment Day. And now I'd love to present our wonderful board member, Amber Finch, who is going to talk to you about our presenters today. Amber?
Thank you so much, Lashana, and thank you everyone for having me here. I hope that you all are enjoying Parent Empowerment Day so far. As mentioned, my name is Amber Finch, and I am a proud member of the Board of Directors for Crystal Stairs. I'm happy to be introducing this workshop today, which is entitled Introduction to Banking, and is hosted by our longstanding partners, Union Bank. Today's workshop will be hosted by Sergio Martinez and Carolina Gomez. This workshop will touch on the importance of financial education and basic banking. The goal is for all of you to learn and understand basic banking and what is needed to establish a bank account. This includes managing your account, learning the rules, and keeping track of how to use it. So let's all give them a warm virtual welcome.
Hello, thank you everyone. My name is Carolina Gomez. I'm super excited to be here today. Again, as mentioned, I'm the branch manager of a student-run branch. And again, I'm excited to give you the basics about, introduction to the banking.
And hi, everyone. My name is Sergio Martinez. I'm a branch manager at a student-run branch, City of El Monte, at Mount View High School. So I'm really excited. I love doing these workshops. So hopefully you guys get a lot of benefits out of this, and hopefully, make sure you ask questions, and we'll try to answer them as, through our knowledge.
Yeah. While we get our slides up and running on our screen, just want to share that it's important to know or to be financial savvy, right? So that we can, take ownership of our financial wealth. It helps us build the capability of us, having something bigger, bigger and better, like a new car, a new home, just, by starting our checking account, learning how to manage it, our savings. It's just very important to be very financial literate. So without further ado, we can get started with our Introduction to Banking, which is our first module. Again, it's going to go over financial products, services, and providers. So here are some financial institutions that we should consider when we're searching for where to bank. So we have banks that are regularly open to everyone. Credit unions, which are, they're more like members served, which I will give you an example in the other slide. And then there's other alternative financial services, which, could be some sort of a check cashing place where they offer alternative, to be able to manage your funds. Next slide. So here's the differences between the banks and the credit unions. So banks, for example, the clients at Union Bank, they're customers, so it's open to the public. Whereas in credit unions, they have to be members. They have to have some sort of ties to be part of the, or to have an account there. Usually at banks, there's no membership criteria, and then they're also owned by shareholders. Whereas credit unions, you have to have a membership, and they are a not-for-profit organization owned by the members. So these are the two major differences between the banks and credit unions. But essentially, they offer similar products and services. And when you're looking where to bank or where to start banking, just shop around and see which one's the best option for you. Next slide.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Carolina, for introducing banks and credit unions. So now I'm actually going to go into how your money is protected at banks and also at credit unions. So as a lot of you actually go into an actual bank, you may actually see this sign. Usually it's a gold-plated, which is it's called FDIC, also known as Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which insures the funds on each depositor to at least $250,000 per insured bank. So what that means is pretty much if the bank, let's say if it fails and ends up closing, your money is insured at least up to $250,000. Okay, so the FDIC will insure deposit products like your checking account, your savings account, money market accounts, certificate of deposits, and of course, any other types of instrument issued through the FDIC insured bank. Some of the products that are not covered through FDIC are like your non-deposit investments, right? You know, such as like stocks, mutual funds, annuities, bonds, just to name a few, right? So make sure if you don't see that FDIC when you do go into the bank, pretty much it might be covered under a different area, okay? So if you'd like to kind of know more about FDIC, definitely you can go to the website, which is actually fdic.gov. You can learn more information about how your money is insured. This will help you kind of understand more about your money, how it can be insured. I also highly recommend that you can actually go in there and use the calculate estimate, which is called EDIE. It's EDIE, which is also known as an electronic deposit insurance estimator. So what this actually does, it actually helps you calculate to see if how your money is covered, right? Especially if you're planning to have more than over 250,000 in cash, you definitely want to make sure your money is insured. Okay. Next slide, please. Perfect. Thank you. So now we went into FDIC, right? Which actually insures banks. With credit unions, it's a little bit different, right? So credit unions actually have their own insurance, which actually they end up using the NCUA, which this is actually known as National Credit Union Administration, right? So it's similar to coverage as FDIC, which your money is also insured up to 250,000 per depositor per insured credit union. So it covers basically the same types of accounts that your FDIC does cover, right? Which is your checking account, your savings, money market, and all the products that I just mentioned earlier on the previous slide, right? Not to mention with NCUA, it's the same way when it comes to non-deposit investment products, okay? So those are not covered under this type of insurance, okay? So definitely one of the benefits, if you actually want to learn more about this type of insurance, you can definitely go to the website, which is the ncua.gov, to kind of learn more about how you can maximize when it comes to having your money insured. They actually do also have something similar, like the FDIC, which is called EDIE. So theirs is actually, it's called Shared Insurance Estimator. So it's the same thing, similar. You can actually calculate when it comes to how much my money is insured. I really actually enjoy using EDIE a lot when it comes to my customers, because I get asked several questions. It's like, I get FDIC, but what does it mean only up to 250? So what does it mean if I have, say, more than that, right? So EDIE is a great tool that you can actually use, especially for those individuals that do have more than over 250,000, because you want to pretty much maximize the insurance when it comes to protecting your money, right? You work hard, and definitely you want to make sure your money is insured. Okay. Next slide.
Just to add to both those slides that Sergio just covered, that's also one thing that we have to look for, right? We want to make sure that our funds are protected, and then look at the pros and cons. If our money is stored in our house, under a mattress, under a table, you know, something could happen at home, right? Either it could get lost, stolen, or, you know, a house burns down, whereas if it's inside a banking institution, right, or a credit union, your funds are safe from all that. So just have that on top of mind. Just what I wanted to add. Go ahead to the next slide. All right, so here's assessing services. So where can you get these services? So we have retail locations all over, right? So depending what's closer to you, again, your convenience. We have automated teller machines in case the banks are already closed. These are the go-to when you need cash on hand. They have a customer service, so you can call for your balances, or if you're waiting to have something cleared and you're unsure, you could always call and just check. You have your website for resources to look in there. Online banking, mobile banking, and your smart apps. So again, having that accessibility for you to view your account balances is something that comes in handy. I use it a lot when I want to see my balance, make sure that that's what I have or what I should have. It keeps me on track. So we have to make sure that these services are something that are available to us. So like that, it's more convenient for us to be able to view our accounts. Again, this last bullet point here, request reasonable accommodations for a person with disabilities. So if something like on the facility itself, they should have, some sort of accommodations because they have to abide by the Americans Disability Act. So if you're a customer and you have, those accommodations needed, make sure that these, financial institutions or credit unions have that. Okay, next slide. These are products and services that we should consider when we're shopping for an account. Our deposit products are saving accounts, checking accounts, time deposit accounts, also known as certificate of deposit, money market accounts, and overdraft services. There's also credit products such as credit cards, lines of credit, installment loans, mortgages, and other products and services such as IRAs and investments accounts. So going back on the deposit products, let's go back on savings. So we put savings first for one reason. We want to make sure that when you are establishing an account, always think of yourself first. So we say pay yourself first, kind of like a bill, pay yourself first. And that is that saving account where you want to make sure you establish, right? So we recommend, having that savings account for many different reasons, emergency situations. You can start your college fund for your kids early, setting your goals for that purposes. So savings account come in handy because of that, right? Checking accounts you utilize for your daily expenses. You use for check writing to pay bills. You can use debit cards to pay bills online or online bill pay setup. Time deposits are more like a savings account at a long term, but it does earn a little bit more interest than a regular saving account or some checking accounts that earn interest. And this is for our long-term savings goal. So if you're looking to put that money aside and know that you want it to grow for a little bit and use it, I don't know, within 2 years, 3 years from now, you know that it's going to be growing in there, right, on the certificate of deposit. The money market account is similar to the checking account, but it also offers a little bit of interest. So money market account is a checking account that pays interest, but you can write checks out of it. So the savings and money market have limitations as far as how many transactions you can do, just to help you again save and spend less. Credit lines. Credit products, that credit cards, credit lines, installment loans, and mortgages is more into building that credit. And we can, they're a little different in regards to like interest rates. So when you're shopping around for that, make sure you really ask, and understand what are the interests that are going to come with it, because again, that balance that you're going to hold as a credit line is going to have interest that's going to be accumulating. So how much is really that you're going to, end up paying. So just when you're shopping around, just make sure you ask for that. Okay, we can go to the next slide.
All right, perfect. So thank you for introducing the actual, some of the bank products that banks do offer, right? So now I'm actually going to go to other products and services that are usually sometimes included in an account, right? And also some of the services that banks do offer as well, and same with credit unions. So the first one we're going to go over is check cashing. So as you know, you are able to cash checks against your bank account, right? If the requirements are met on your bank account, of course. That's one of the benefits about it, right? Instead of cashing your check cashing places, you can do it in your actual bank. Another service is money orders. So money orders, you can actually purchase money orders through a bank or credit union. Usually money orders are good for up to $1,000. The benefit of this is basically it's guaranteed funds. So what that means is you're using your own money to actually purchase these instruments. You can write it to pay your bills, pay a company, or even pay an individual, right? So that's kind of one of the benefits about a money order. Banks do also offer prepaid cards. Definitely you want to go ahead and verify with your bank to see if they actually do offer prepaid cards, because most banks, some banks and most banks don't actually offer these. Prepaid cards, basically you load money into an actual card, and it kind of works almost like a debit card where you can actually make purchases or make payments and pay your bills. Okay. A debit card now, this is actually one that a lot of us actually use nowadays, right? Debit card, pretty much it's a payment card that's kind of linked to your checking account. So what this means is pretty much you are using your own funds to make purchases, make payments, right, on a debit card. So a lot of people get confused or get it mixed up when it says debit card and credit card, because they actually do have about the same logos that usually most major credit cards do have. But always remember, on a debit card, pretty much you're using your own funds from your own checking account. Okay. Next item comes, it's a cashier's checks, right? So these are actually similar to a money order. So the difference on a cashier check and a money order, where a money order you can only most of the time purchase it for up to $1,000. Cashier's checks, on the other hand, you can actually purchase it for larger amounts, right? So if you're planning to pay somebody or get a cashier check for a larger amount, definitely you can do that. That's kind of one of the benefits about cashier checks. A lot of customers, rather than taking out cash, usually large amounts of cash, like say 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 in cash, we exchange it for a cashier check because it's a lot easier and more secure than somebody carrying cash, right? Definitely you do not want to carry cash. And that's what cashier checks are for, right? It's for more larger amounts, okay? Next one talks about the automated teller machine, right? Also known as ATM. So pretty much with banks, most banks do have the ATMs where you can actually access your bank account using your ATM or even your actual debit card, right? You can deposit, withdraw money, transfer between accounts if the accounts are actually linked, right? You can also get balances, just to kind of name a few when it comes to using an ATM. But mainly the convenience thing about ATMs is pretty much you can withdraw money when you actually do need it, especially in cash, right? Next one talks about ATM cards, right? So ATM cards are mainly used at an ATM machine, right? So whenever you need to do any deposit or withdraw from your bank account, you can actually do it through an ATM machine. With ATM cards, it does limit when it comes to making purchases, and also it does limit your amount. So definitely most retail stores will not accept it. If you guys do have a savings ATM card, there are logos on the back of the card where if you actually see those logos at certain stores, gas stations, they may be able to accept it. But usually ATM card is mainly more for just ATM machine use only. Next one, we go into online, mobile banking, and bill payment services, right? This is actually one of my favorites because I always manage most of all my accounts through online banking. I definitely have bill pay services that I always do when it comes to paying my bills. So basically what this is pretty much, you can access your account through either a computer, through your mobile device. Nowadays, everybody has a mobile device where you can access all your information on your actual bank products, bank accounts. You can even pay your bills. That's one thing that I always do. I end up paying my bills through my online banking. Just log in there, already have everything set up, and then eventually send my payments, okay? Next one is pretty much person to person, also known as P2P. Pretty much this one's actually it's a money transfer electronically to another person. Okay, so in the next few slides, we'll talk a little bit more about it. So you kind of will get to learn more in details on what that is. Another service that banks do provide is wire transfers. So wire transfers is a transfer of funds done electronically from bank to bank. So you can send money either domestic or international. Now, when it comes to sending money via wire, you do need a little bit more information, right? Which you would need either if it's going to an actual individual, a person, or a company. You're going to need all the information when it comes to their name, account numbers, addresses. Not to mention, you're going to actually need the bank information as well. So if it's going domestic, bank's routing number or the ABA number, the name of the bank that's receiving the funds. And then if it's going international, you may end up needing a SWIFT number, right? So this is actually one of the easiest way to send money electronically. So if you have family members that are overseas, you can actually send money electronically via wire, okay? And pretty much lastly, with all these products and services that I just mentioned, definitely you wanna verify with your actual bank to make sure that if it does cost you money, because some of these services are available to you at no cost, but some of there is actual certain fees that apply, right? So definitely make sure you verify your bank disclosure on the fees, and definitely most fees do vary from bank to bank. Okay. Next slide. Perfect. Thank you. So now we're going to go into alternative financial services. Okay. So this is more for individuals that don't like to use, say, banks, right? They kind of maybe prefer more to use cash. They like to maybe purchase money orders to pay their bills, or pretty much they may not be able to open an actual bank account. So these individuals are called unbanked individuals, right? So everybody's situation is different. And it's best to know kind of the benefits and risks when it comes to alternative product and services, right? One of the most common ones that I see a lot when it comes to alternative services is check cashing places, right? For those individuals that don't bank with banks, they kind of rely more on check cashing places, right? To cash their, say, paycheck. Keep in mind that these places do charge you a fee. Sometimes it can be a percentage, or sometimes it can be a flat fee. So eventually within time, the fees do end up adding up, especially if you are cashing large checks, right? And pretty much that's something that a lot of people actually do. So why waste your money in cashing checks for a flat fee, then maybe just open a bank account. Another one is pretty much that it's a payday loan, right? Also another alternative service that individuals use. When it comes to payday loan, it's basically you're advancing money from your pay, you're taking on a loan. One of the things that I can definitely tell you with payday loans, it's good to do it if you need money right away because you get access to the money, within a few minutes. But the biggest disadvantage when it comes to payday loans is the fees are actually really high, and not to mention interest rates. So definitely be very careful if you do end up deciding to do like payday loans in advance, because the fees and the rates can actually really put you in a big hole. So yeah, definitely make sure you do understand the fees before getting any of these type of payday loans, because I see a lot of clients that advance payday loans and the fees that they charge are really high. So this is something that I wouldn't recommend unless if you're in desperate need to actually get cash right away, because I mean that's one of the fastest way to get cash, because a lot of times you need to actually verify your credit. Okay, so just think about, just understand the fees on that part. Okay, now we actually get into, let's say you have a negative bank history, right? So what I mean by negative bank history means that maybe within time you had a bank account and you kind of your account was overdrawn and you probably never made a deposit, right? So what banks do, they report these clients to check systems, right? So with check systems, if you report it, it actually won't allow you to open a bank product, right? And of course, there are certain guidelines that some individuals might be able to, but you have to meet those actual guidelines, okay? With that, we also do, most banks do offer what's called a second chance account. It's pretty much for these individuals that can't open a bank account. So they prefer to just be one of those unbanked individuals. But yeah, definitely you want to ask to see if banks do offer a second chance account. I know most banks do offer second chance accounts, which actually will help you, rebuild your banking history, right? One of the things with second chance account, it does limit your access when it comes to having an account. So you may not have the exact same features when it comes to actually having like a checking account, right? But one of the benefits about a second chance account, it helps you avoid paying those check cashing fees at check cashing places, right? So definitely, if you know someone or if you have any type of negative bank records, make sure that you do ask for these second chance accounts, because these accounts will definitely help you rebuild your banking history. Okay.
Yeah.
Next slide.
Next slide. The financial products and services that you need, again, this will help you save money, spend, manage, and borrow money. And we always say when you're spending, always start with your needs rather than your wants. This will help you, build that financial wealth in the long run, right? Your savings, and it just helps you with managing your finances. Next slide, please. So what do we need to open an account? When we go to a banking institution, we're asked to complete an application, and not necessarily a paper application. It's more like you're getting your bankers asking you questions, and they're putting in, all the information in an online application. So they're going to ask for your name, so they have to verify who you are. They ask for your identifications, such as like a driver license or state ID. Or passport, whichever you have available. Also for adults, they ask for a secondary ID to document on there, which can be ATM debit card with a Visa or MasterCard logo. And then make sure that when you're opening the account, have the initial deposit amount that you're gonna establish the account with. Make sure that you're gonna receive the disclosures right after you establish the account. This is just so you have information to take back home and review it again, so that you fully understand, how the account is going to be managed, right? And that you can also, that you understand before you leave, that after you open the account, before you leave, make sure that you're consenting to open that account. Once you establish that account, you're ready to, take on that first deposit, your first check, bring it into the, your financial institution, and you already have your account number ready. So just take it in and make your first deposit. You also have other tools that you can activate, like we mentioned on previous slides, is the online banking, mobile banking. These are also ways to, make that first deposit by, taking a quick snippet of that check, on the face of the check, and then behind the check that you signed it. So by activating these tools, once you have established the account, this gives you the flexibility to deposit from your home. And then also before you leave, by opening this account, make sure you ask questions. Again, just by asking questions to your banker or the staff at the bank, they can, clarify any doubts that you may have on how to manage the account, or how can you avoid, other service and charges that they might be applied at a later time. So we can, provide that for you. Next slide.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to go into kind of possible options, right? So sometimes you may ask yourself, so what if you don't have enough money, or account fees are too high, right? So you want to consider maybe something, on a low cost option, right? So banks do offer several checking accounts and savings account options, right? It's just asking the right question to see which account fits your needs, right? A lot of people actually consider maybe a nearby bank that's closer to home or work, right? But definitely you want to make sure what the requirements are, and try to avoid paying fees, right? Some banks do have where you can do mobile deposit, right? Where it actually waives your service fee, or direct deposit, right? I know other banks do have where you can use your debit card a certain amount of times, and that waives the service fee. So just make sure you ask questions and see what options you do have to try to avoid paying fees, especially that monthly fee that we definitely want to try to avoid. Okay. The next one talks about kind of negative information in bank history, right? I went into a little bit about the second chance account, right? So that's an account that is offered at most banks. So definitely you want to ask Usually most banks have at least one account that would be considered a second chance checking account, right? And always remember, on a second chance checking account is basically you're trying to rebuild your banking history, right? And definitely it does limit some of the transactions that most other bank accounts you can do, right? The next one is pretty much negative information on credit reports and low credit score, right? So I kind of feel like secure credit cards are probably the best way when it comes to having no credit, having very maybe limited credit, or you basically want to rebuild your credit. Okay, so definitely you can go into a bank and see if they actually offer these actual secure credit cards. So it's kind of the best way to actually establish credit. So I usually highly recommend this for clients that do come in and they ask those questions, right? I have no credit. How can I build credit, right? So this is one of the best ways so you can actually start credit. And definitely if you need assistance when it comes to maybe credit building loans, definitely get credit counseling is available, right? You can always verify with a nonprofit to see if they actually do have this type of service for you. Sometimes it might charge you, it may be a low cost, or sometimes it may not cost you anything at all. So definitely ask questions to regarding, credit building, of course, right? And then last one talks about what if, say, I don't have a social security number. Okay, so I know I get asked that question a lot when customers do come in, right? So there are options that we can still open a bank account if you don't have a social security number, right? Questions that we ask is like, do you have a TIN number, right? Tax identification number. If not, we might be able to open it with maybe an actual passport, right? Or international driver's license. So it just depends on what you may have as identification that we can actually use to open a bank account, right? So just because you don't have a social doesn't mean you cannot have a bank account. You can still have one as long as you kind of have the proper documents that banks sometimes do require. And every bank is different. Some banks may require a passport. Some may require an international driver's license or ID, okay? So just a few things to just kind of consider when it comes to these possible options, okay? Next slide. Perfect. So now we're going to kind of go into managing an account, right? So you kind of been learning about bank products, FDIC, different options you have. So now we're going to go into kind of managing, say, your checking account, right? As you know, when it comes to checking account, it can be used for many different things, right? I know a lot of us probably do have checking accounts where you can go ahead and make deposit. You can deposit your money, cash, your paycheck. You can withdraw cash, pay your bills online. One of the benefits on checking account, you can actually write checks, right? I know a lot of us probably don't write checks nowadays, but I know I still write a check. Actually still only write one check a month. So I'm one of those individuals that still writes checks. We kind of rely more, right? Yeah, we kind of rely more, a little bit more on bill pay, right? And mobile devices, online banking. So those are kind of some of the services that actually are provided to you when it comes to an actual checking account. It's really easy and convenient paying your bills online. I do it all the time where I just go in my online account, even on my actual phone, and I look for the bill, send it, and don't have to worry about it. The money has been sent out, and that bill collector is going to get their bill, right? So it's really easy and convenient. Okay. But definitely be very careful. Make sure you do monitor your account online just to make sure that everything is accurate and correct. And definitely you want to report it right away to the bank if you do see something that you did not authorize. Okay. Next one, we're going to go into ATM cards and debit cards, right? As we kind of know, these two kind of may look similar, right? But they're a little bit different. So when it comes to both cards, they're both linked to an account, right? The ATM card usually might be linked to a savings. It can even be linked to a checking account, or a debit card will be linked to an actual checking account. Okay, so the difference with an ATM card, it's mainly to use at an ATM machine where you can access your money, you can deposit and withdraw and do a few other transactions, right? Some retail stores will not accept it. Well, actually, most retail stores won't accept it. Unlike an actual debit card, a debit card works kind of same as an ATM card, where you can actually use it for kind of the same features, but with a debit card, you can go and make purchases online. You can make payments. You can make purchases in person. So that's kind of one of the actual convenience, because I know a lot of individuals get it mixed up. Well, what's the difference between an ATM and a debit card, right? Not to mention, they always get confused where debit cards is like, well, what is the credit and debit, which I know we're going to kind of talk about a little bit in a slide. So you kind of get to know a little bit more about that. And also one of the benefits on a checking account is to write checks, right? So definitely that's always a good way to do it, is you can write checks. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm still a victim that writes one check, but a lot of us actually don't do it. But I mean, it's really easy to write checks, which in a few slides, you'll get to actually learn how to actually write a check and what are parts of a check. Okay, but definitely take advantage of writing checks. If you don't write checks, there is that the bill pay option that you do have, right? Mainly that's what I do to pay most of my bills. I go online and just pay everything that I need to. Even some bills I already have them automatically debited from my bank account, which I don't even have to worry about. They just automatically come in. So just take advantage of some of these when it comes to having an actual checking account, because it's a good product to have, and you actually get to kind of manage your account. Okay. Next slide.
All right, so here we're going to cover overdrafts. This is a subject that sometimes seems very confusing to understand, but we want to make sure that we explain it to you. So transaction goes through, but there's not enough money. That's what technically an overdraft is. So you have a balance on your account. Let's say I give you an example of $100, but you purchased something that cost you maybe $150. So sometimes the transaction will go through, right, on your account. So it's going to cost the balance to be at a negative, because your balance was 100, but the transaction was 150. So now your balance is negative $50. So that overdraft means that you have to pay that, that excessive $50 plus an additional overdraft fee. So we just, again, going back to managing the account and looking at your balances online, over the phone, to the ATM, which is whatever's more convenient to you, is very, very crucial here. Just so that you won't, be paying on these overdraft fees, because these fees, depending on the banks, can range from $30 to $35, depending where you bank. So it can get pretty pricey if the account goes negative, a few times. So we want to make sure that we understand what overdrafts are. So again, it's just money that you spend too much money and now your account is negative, but you will have something that's tied to it, which is the fee. There are services that can help you avoid these, such as you're opting in a consent, which says that you're allowing certain transactions to clear based on on the balances that you've had, how long you've been with the bank. But there's still fees that are that will apply, but it will be less than those high overdraft fees. So that's something that you want to consult with your banker when you're establishing the account, or make sure that you look at the schedule of fees and charges, which is part of your disclosures that you bring home. That will tell you how much it will cost you. Also, there's the do not opt in option, which can decline those transactions. So instead of you going to the store, for example, and swiping your card, and then you don't have sufficient on there, instead of it going through, like the account is open and it just says you do have funds in there, it will not go through. It will just decline the purchase. But also we have to be careful with that, because sometimes different vendors can use credit instead of debit, and which we will cover in a little bit on the next slide. So if you opt in, again, you're giving your consent, but again, it will be a reduced overdraft fee. Whereas if you do not opt in, it's just going to decline it, and it's not going to cost you that overdraft. But in sometimes when it does try to hit, it does cost you an overdraft. So just be very important for you to know what fees to look out for so that you could avoid them, and what services do they offer to protect you from these. For example, sometimes we have a saving account that's tied into a checking account. So let's say we have that saving account, right? We have a balance on there. Your checking account goes low because you maybe lost track of how many checks cleared or how many payments came through. So you lost track, but you do have that, extra savings account. When your account does go overdrawn, if you have that overdraft service, that's, called savings overdraft protection, right? Because they're tied in together. That will save you money as well. It will transfer to cover the overdraft. But again, it's a reduced fee. So just ask for what types of services the banks offered for you to, avoid these services or these overdraft fees. Financial institutions decide if they will cover checks or other payments that can cause overdrafts if processed. So these the last two bullet points gives you an example of if covered, expect to be charged, right? If not covered, expect to be charged if the overdraft, possibly, returned. For, the example there says if there's a return check, might be charged by the third party. So again, just knowing what the overdraft fees are is very crucial, very important when you're shopping around and deciding where to bank. Yeah. Next slide. Here we're going to cover electronic banking. So these are different options of how to receive money or how to send out money, right? So we have a direct deposit. This is, it's a safe way to receive your payroll check. So a lot of employers offer this. Instead of them giving you a physical check, they can just deposit it into your checking account. So there's no need for you to go into the bank to make that deposit anymore. Also federal agencies, for example, if you get disability checks or Social Security benefits, this is the way that they would deposit into the account by a direct deposit method. There's the automatic bill payment, which is scheduled to and send payments from your financial institution to the vendor. For example, the Department of Water, right, and Power. You would schedule it on your bill pay system, and you can schedule it either for a one-time or every month. You already know how much, roughly about how much your water bill will be, right, or your power bill. Then you would just put in an amount and you just set it up as a recurring method. And that could be changed at any time. So that's something that you can, have it accessible through online. Automatic debit gives you permission to a merchant to take payment. So the automatic debit is essentially using your debit card number or your account number. We have to make sure that, again, we have sufficient funds in the account so that when all these payments are coming through, we won't cost ourselves an overdraft. And also with these automatic debit, usually it's like a sign. Pretty much when you do these setups, it's like a signed contract. So we got to make sure that we know who we're giving permission to, so we can make sure that we're safe, right? We're not providing just our card number or account number to a merchant that it's not trustworthy. So we have to be very careful with those too. Next slide.
Perfect. So now we're going to kind of learn parts of a check, right? Some of us actually still write checks. Some of them may not write checks, but there's going to be some important things when it comes to actually writing checks. And this is going to be actually more a bigger picture of you understanding what is on an actual check. Okay. So I'm just going to actually go by each number. As you see, number one, we have Maya Johnson. As number one is usually what we call the maker of the account, which is actually the owner, the individual that actually signs the checks, right? Sometimes you might have multiple individuals there where it might be a joint account, or sometimes you may not see an actual person that signs the check, but that's doesn't mean that they're not on the account, right? But pretty much on that part, number one, usually it's going to have the information, your name, first name, last name, and your address. You can add some other options as well. Number two is the date, right? Definitely want a current date when it comes to issuing a check. You definitely do not want to post-date it or a stale date, right? So post-dated means that you're going to issue it for a future date, right? So I know a lot of people write checks. Today is what, April 22nd, you write it for May 1st, right? So that means that this item cannot be negotiated until May 1st, right? And a lot of people actually don't know that checks usually are good for 6 months, right? So you definitely want to make sure that you negotiate these checks. Banks might be able to turn them down if it's been issued for more than 6 months. They're going to ask you to pretty much get a new check from the person that gave you the check. Okay. Number 3 is the check number, right? All checks do have a check number. This is more kind of for your records when you keep track of your checks that you do write, right? You want to put it in the actual check register, which you'll get to learn in the next slide, right? Number 4 is called the payee, who you're actually making the check payable to, right? So you can make it to an actual business, you can make it to pay your bills, or if you want to write it to somebody individual, right? You can put a name on there. But definitely it's really important to never leave the actual pay to the order blank or write cash, right? Because if that means if somebody finds it, if it gets stolen, then somebody can actually negotiate it because they can go ahead and write their name, or if it's cash, basically means it's negotiated for cash, okay? Number 5 is actually the numeric. So this check is written for $75.85. So number 5 and number 6 are kind of tied together. So these two should always actually match, right? As number 6 this is what we call the written, which is actually also known as the legal amount. So if a check is presented and number 5 and number 6 do not match, we basically will have to take by number 6, which is the legal amount, the written, right? So that's one of the things that's kind of really important. So it's a lot easier to alter number 5 than number 6. So that's the reason why number 6 is kind of considered the legal amount. Okay. Number 7, there's always going to be a drawee bank, right, where this check is drawn from. So if you have a bank account with Union Bank and you have checks, it's going to have Union Bank on it, right? So there's always going to be actually drawee bank where it's actually going to go through. Number 8, this is kind of more for like a for or memo. In this situation, this check is actually made out to local grocery stores. So they're basically buying groceries, right? So, but you can, if you're writing a check for somebody for their birthday, you can put happy birthday, a little message. It's up to you. 10, 11, and 12, this is actually all together. This is actually called the MICR line. So number 10 basically is the bank's routing number where the check is drawn from, right? Number 11 is your account number. So if you don't know your account number, if you have checks, your account number is actually on your actual check. And number 12 is actually the check number, right? Which the check number will match number 3. And I actually forgot number 9. I passed it on by mistake. That's actually the maker's signature, which who is the authorized signer on this check. But definitely when it gets presented to the banks actually have to verify against bank records to make sure that the signer is an actual authorized signer in this account. So these are just kind of parts of a check. Okay, next slide. All right, and real quick, I'm just gonna kind of go over transaction register. This is, for me, I kind of always say this is kind of like the old school way of actually keeping track of all your expenses when it comes to your checking account, right? It's very simple to keep track. The only thing it requires a lot of writing and putting in all your transactions that you actually do when it comes to making purchases, writing checks. You have to do, of course, math as well. So real quick on this one, it kind of starts off with a $300 balance, and then whatever purchases you make, you kind of go ahead and start deducting, right? If you make any additional deposits, then you go ahead and just add them to your actual balance. So this is, for me, I kind of feel like when I see customers bring these check registers, this is kind of feel like it's the best way to actually budget, right? Because people that bring this in actually are balanced to the penny, right? And I know a lot of days nowadays we rely on computers, which I'm sure we can't even balance in computers, but when it comes to registers, it just surprises me that it always balances out. Okay, so just kind of real quick on registers, which really don't use them that much, but just in case if you ever do come across one. Okay, next slide.
All right, and here we have ATM machines and ATM cards. So the use of an ATM is for a variety of transactions. So again, you withdraw, you can deposit, and you can check balances. So, or transfer against, other accounts if you have accounts within the same institution. So ask your financial institution about purchases with the ATM card. Again, usually the vendors really don't take ATM cards for purchases. That will be done with a debit card, which has the Visa or MasterCard logo. What you need to know is that the ATM cards are tied into your checking account or your savings account. And whenever you do transact on the ATM machine, that's where the money is going to come out from, whichever account is tied to. And again, there's very accessible features. And then just make sure that you know that by having that card, you know that your money is safe. Next slide. The debit card, this one again, it's the same features as the regular ATM card, but again, it has that feature that you can, make purchases through online or through different vendors by utilizing that credit. So this is where we kind of differentiate what is debit and what is credit. So when using debit, you're pretty much utilizing your PIN number to do the transaction, and credit is just using the network. So either way, with your debit cards, know that it's not credit that you're actually using, it's money that's tied into your checking account. So always know your balance in your checking account, very, very important. That when you're using that card, know that it's coming out of your balance. Next slide.
All right, perfect. I'll just go ahead and cover this pretty briefly because I know we're kind of running out of time. So person to person, it's also known as P2P, right? So this is kind of the easiest and fastest way nowadays to actually transfer money, from person to person, from your bank account to another account. For me, I wish I had this back in my days, in my early 20s, because I remember I used to pay a lot for my friends. And of course, when you pay for somebody, sometimes you won't see the money, right? Where nowadays with P2P, you can always let them know, it's like, oh, I'll pay for you today, but you can just go ahead and send me the money. Just use my phone and just you can send it through PayPal or through Zelle. So that's actually one of the convenience when it comes to P2P, right? The key thing is understanding which service your bank does provide, because every service is a little bit different. I know with PayPal, it goes into your actual PayPal account. Eventually, you can transfer that money to your actual bank account, or you can use it through PayPal. And actually, PayPal now, a lot of places do accept PayPal for payment. With Zelle, it's actually one of the easiest convenience way when you actually send money. Money gets into your account, into your bank account, like in minutes. So if you need to withdraw at an ATM machine or a bank, money goes into your account as a payment, and you can go ahead and start using those actual funds. So that's kind of one of the nice convenience when it comes to these P2P. But definitely you want to keep in mind about the federal deposit insurance fees, because sometimes there are fees to actually expedite your funds. So just understand what those are. Okay. And then the bottom one talks about mobile wallet app. This is actually one of the convenience ways in case if, let's say, you do forget your actual wallet at home, which I know I've done. I've been guilty of doing that. But if you need to make a purchase, if you actually do have the app on your phone, your wallet, and you have a credit card or a debit card saved in there, you can actually use that to make purchases, with your mobile device, right? And definitely be very careful. You do lock your phone. You have a security on there if it's your thumb, your face, your feature, right? Or an actual passcode. So because if you lose your phone or somebody gets a hold of it, then they might be able to use it. Okay. Go ahead and with the next slide. All right. So now we're going to kind of go into, excuse me, how prepaid cards work. So real quick, prepaid cards are kind of similar when it comes to a debit card, right? The only difference with prepaid cards is it's not linked to a checking account. One of the things that they're not also offered at every bank. So definitely check with your bank to see if they actually do offer these prepaid cards. They're actually really convenient to have because you can load your old money and you can actually use it to make purchases, payments, because a lot of these cards actually do have like the actual Visa, the MasterCard, American Express logo. Some of these cards, you can actually get them not just at banks, but you can get them like at drugstores. I know they sell them there. At some grocery stores, usually it's in the gift card area, right? You actually may see those as well. Sometimes you can load these cards. and you can sometimes reload them. So what it means is you can keep reloading them over and over. But some cards, you can, once you use it, the money's kind of depleted and that's it. Okay. And definitely there are just different types of cards that are pre-reloaded. Payroll cards. A lot of employers nowadays actually pay their employees with an actual payroll card. EBT card. The benefits that you receive goes into this EBT card where you can actually go ahead and start using it. Also with public transportation and different stores, retail stores offer these prepaid cards as well. I know some of you guys probably received an actual prepaid card during the stimulus, the second round. So that's kind of what a perfect example of what an actual prepaid card looks like. It's money that's already there. They can start using immediately, and definitely register your card just in case if you do lose it or it gets stolen. Okay. Next slide.
So here we have loss of stolen prepaid cards. Just make sure that you report them right away. The protections depend on the type of card. So again, know the restrictions on them. And then generally must be registered. So when you purchase them, make sure you register them really quickly. So some tips is review your account statements, mobile banking, and dispute any charges that you don't authorize. Understand your card limits, know the fees, again, that are applied, report the loss and theft immediately, and make sure you stay safe online and when you're utilizing any card. Next slide. And here are some of the key takeaways for all the sections that we covered. First one, financial products and service. So key takeaway, consider the needs and shop around for the products and services. Section 2, opening an account. Know the general process for opening savings checking accounts, including options if you are initially ineligible to open an account. Read and understand disclosures. 3, managing an account. Learn the rules and your account and keep track of how to use it. This can help you with the costs down and develop the positive banking relationship. And lastly, prepaid cards. Prepaid cards allow you to spend and access your money loaded through the chat box. Prepaid cards loaded, and make sure that you understand the terms and conditions right on the prepaid cards.
Okay, thank you so much, Union Bank. Jose, you wanted to take us out?
Sure. So thank you all for joining us today. What an amazing experience, right? So let's give it up for all our presenters and panelists for an amazing job.
Yes, and thank you, families and providers who attended. We really enjoyed you. You had amazing questions, and I feel like I've learned something as well. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yes,
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.